All right. And we are live. Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing your business and life, and you're open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now, let's get into the show. And today's guest is my buddy, James Barrett. James, how are you?
Doing well, sir. Good to be back on the show.
So James and I just were in Nashville at the Southern States Conference, and we got to hang out afterwards, and we went dancing. Like, we went out on the town, and it was crazy, wasn't it?
It was a great time. I mean, there's
it was a great time.
Honky tonks and dance floors everywhere. I mean, it's live music
and the musicians, the talent. Yeah, it was crazy. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. That's why I tell people about Nashville all the time. The worst musician in Nashville is better than every musician everywhere else, it seems like.
Yeah. I'm doing open mic night tomorrow night. and yeah, everyone in Nashville is better than me. That's for sure. So, but hey, I'm taking the risk. I'm getting on stage.
That's right. So. Get out there. You got a lot of practice behind a mic doing these podcasts, so it'll show.
I don't know if that's the same as like singing with a guitar, but
we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
we'll see. Yeah. So James, you've been on the show before. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you here. In case anybody listening doesn't know James and they can't see his shirt because they're listening, he is part of a company called Tenant Turner, which consistently has been one of the top performing companies for like vendors in our Facebook group. We get a lot of positive feedback from clients on Tenant Turner. I'm glad to have you back on the show. And today we're going to be talking about virtual tour technologies.
Yep.
So, and what is that?
Yeah, and for those of you who might be questioning, well, why is James from a scheduling software where they do lock boxes and in-person showings, why is he talking about virtual tours? With virtual tours, the real goal is how can you reduce the number of showings that are happening because people are being educated before physically having to go to the property. But Jason, kind of as you alluded to, with how highly we're rated within the Facebook group and whatnot, we are a very customer-centric, customer-driven organization. And it something that's come up particularly more recently is just the concept of virtual tours and seeing the evolution of, quality images, which was, kind of the norm 5-10 years ago, making sure you had quality, high definition images on your listings, to then moving more to a model of video tours, which is a form of virtual tours. But, really just the gateway of virtual tours where you're taking a video, walking through the home. And now more and more we see customers who are adopting these 3D virtual tours, like those that are provided by like a Matterport. And it's becoming very important within the industry because people are investing a decent amount of time and effort into these virtual tours, and they need to make sure they're seeing an ROI on that.
Okay. So are they always seeing an ROI, or is that a problem?
So it's been a problem, like largely because of the investment has always been so high. Because one of the big companies that really kind of got into the real estate market was Matterport, one that's very highly rated, but their cameras are $4,000, right? And so every property management company in the world might want to do a virtual tour, but at that price point, it's prohibitive. What we've seen more recently is there's now lower cost 360 cameras that are used by not only Matterport, but companies like Z Inspector, which are used by a lot of property managers for inspection software. And really, I think one of the big tipping points is Zillow, who recently came out with their own app that allows you to take 360 virtual tours utilizing just an iPhone.
Okay,
You know,
cool.
so you're starting to see that barrier to entry drop down pretty significantly, but it's still early on in its adoption phases here.
Okay. Yeah, and we've had some really great episodes for those listening. If they look at like the episode we did with Michael Sands, he talked a lot about how he's leveraged, you know, some of these cheaper cameras and to offload and to reduce the number of showings significantly. And yeah, so well, let's dig in. So how does this apply to Tenant Turner?
Yeah. And so one of the things we have is, you know, we have a nice unique data set that tells us, you know, how many people are starting to adopt these types of virtual tours and put them in their listings. And so we started to see a nice little increase of such tours. To date, right now, it's only about 11% of our active listings. But just a couple of years ago, you know, it was sub 1%, you know, sub 2%. It was really just in its infancy.
Okay.
But we're starting to see, you know, faster adoption of virtual tours. And one of the things that's also really interesting is 11% of our active rentals have virtual tours associated with them. But now a full third of our customers have at least one virtual tour. So companies in
Okay.
general are starting to adopt more and more of the virtual tours and becoming, you know, basically building it into their process.
So, and let's point this out. I mean, your people that are using Tenant Turner are probably, you know, they're the more tech savvy, maybe more forthcoming property manager, right?
Yep.
I mean, they're a little more forward thinking, is what I mean. And they're early adopters. They're using your technology, and so you may have 11% and maybe 33%, like, you know, or whatever, a third have at least one. But I would imagine outside of Tenant Turner, the number's got to be way lower. I mean, I would imagine you're way lower. So this is still a huge differentiating factor for a management company to say, hey, we do these tours.
Oh yeah.
And it's probably really rare that people are going to bump into any competitors that are doing this yet. I mean, even the people that are savvy enough to be using scheduling software and showing software like Tenant Turner, only 11% are really of the properties are really it's being used for.
Yeah. And I think where there's a huge opportunity within the property management space is now that some of these barriers have been brought down, making it core to your growth model, being able to promote the fact that you do this. And you actually have an artifact that you've created that you can then share with the property owner. That's part of the listing. It's part of the inspection process. And it's part of your now marketing material where you can say, look at these, you know, beautiful virtual tours that we're providing that really nobody else in your market may be doing.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a direct correlation between virtual tours and time on the market and vacancy and and getting and not having to do showings and all of this.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, you know, and this is there's a lot of similarities between Tenant Turner and our goals and what virtual tours do too. With Tenant Turner, we want to make the process as streamlined as possible. So on one hand, we're generating more leads because we want to make sure we maximize our customers' exposure. But on the other hand, we want to eliminate anyone who's not a good fit. So on the one side, we're a 24/7 service that can respond to the leads instantly. But on the other side, we have a pre-qualification and scoring tool that weeds out people who aren't a good fit. These virtual tours are kind of the same thing, but for the other side of the market. So with the virtual tours, because you have a virtual tour on your listing, statistically, it's going to get more page views. It's going to get more clicks. Apartments.com, they actually did a nice little study on this, and it's something that they've started offering through their website, is highlighting listings that have virtual tours. And there's a 250% increase in time on page for a listing that has a virtual tour versus one that does not. So
Okay.
it's
You
doing
said
a good job.
250%?
250%. Yep. And you got to think too, a lot of these listing sites, they're very vanilla, right? Like it's, you can go to Zillow or HotPads or apartments.com and it's pretty cookie cutter in a lot of ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are able to provide a virtual tour and it gets pushed out to those different sites and they can put a little tag or a little icon next to it, it can go a long way into generating more clicks. So, it's similar to Tenant Turner. They're trying to increase leads with virtual tours and they see more time on page. And they also have, they've also seen a 49% increase in the number of leads. So that's one of the goals of virtual tours is how can we get more leads into the top end of the funnel? But at the same time, just like Tenant Turner, how we like to weed out people who aren't a good fit, the virtual tours are helping prospective tenants weed themselves out if they
Right.
don't think that the place is a good fit for them.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep. So more leads on one hand, but at the same time, better fit leads. So that way, when it does get time for a showing, you'll ultimately have fewer showings at a particular property, but it will be more people who
More
are
relevant.
qualified. And exactly. It's a quality over quantity type solution.
Yeah, I mean, relevancy is relevancy is the crux of everything, right?
Yep.
And so it doesn't matter how great the property is or how many tenants you have going through it. If the showings aren't relevant
Yeah.
or they're not interested or, and yeah, it allows them to filter it out. They can see the kitchen and say, nah, that's too small.
Yep.
Or they can see, the backyard, that's not what I was hoping for. They just get a better feel for what it would like to be in it without having to actually go and do it. And so
Absolutely.
if there is a virtual tour and somebody schedules a showing, they're probably fairly legit interested. Like they're probably seriously considering putting an application in on this place.
Yep.
And they're probably ready to move.
That's
Whereas
right.
instead of getting a whole host of tire kickers and time wasters.
That's right. And what we've seen, the big thing right now in our industry is the movement to some more self-access viewings and whatnot. But within Tenant Turn, only a third of our properties are enabled for self-access, because if you have an occupied property, if the owner won't allow self-access at a particular property, if the price point's too low, you're still going to show it. If the price point's too high, you're still going to show it. So this is a huge tool to help weed out unnecessary in-person showings. So if you have your showing agent, like you said, driving around town, interacting with all these different tire kickers who would have weeded themselves out of the process if they actually saw what it looked like from the curb, if they actually had an opportunity to see the size of the backyard and would it fit their 2 or 3 dogs, if they saw the layout of it and they know they want an open floor plan, but then as soon as they walk in and they see it's not an open floor plan, they're going to walk right back out, So it's a huge opportunity to generate more leads, because you've got people who are going to be more engaged with your listing, but then also allow them to self-identify that it's really not a good fit for them based upon what they're seeing in the virtual tour.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult when you're just looking at a bunch of photos where you're just seeing an angle from one corner of a room, and that's all you see of each room, and you're like, it's really hard to get perspective as a renter and you have no idea how these rooms kind of fit together. If they, how that works and what the flow of the place would be like. So yeah, all that makes sense. So how is Tenant Turner allowing people to get the virtual showings into the listings?
Yeah. And so it was kind of a surprising thing that we saw come through, our enhancements requests and whatnot. It was just really people, they're spending a lot of money, whether they own their own Matterport camera or they're putting a lot of time into it. And these virtual tours can take anywhere from, 20 minutes to an hour to record. And some people like to go into Matterport and do video editing, or go in, maybe they pay a service like Virtually Incredible to do virtual tour where they stitch together the images for you and stuff like that. So they're either putting in a lot of time or putting in a lot of money or effort, or both. And so one of the downsides with a lot of these listing sites, and even with Tenant Turner for a while, was that you couldn't really put links in the descriptions that were clickable, that enabled that to be a highlighted element. So something that came through in our enhancements request is just making sure that those things are being promoted appropriately. They've got in Tenant Turner now their own section where people can watch tours, and it highlights the fact that that particular listing has a tour versus the ones that do not. The links are in the descriptions, are hyperlinks and clickable, which engages, a new window for them to be able to watch the tours before they go through and schedule a showing. And some of our customers, they even have custom questions built into their Tenant Turner questionnaire that asks if they have viewed the tour. And,
I was going to say, can they require, in order to schedule a showing or even to do self-access, can you require them to confirm that they have seen the virtual tour? So no time's wasted.
Yep, and that's a huge thing, and we've seen that in past questions that customers have created. It was really like, have you driven through the neighborhood, was kind of the beginning part of it, because they didn't want to meet somebody at a home that the person has no idea what the neighborhood's like, and is it going to be a good fit for them? Have they driven by and seen the outside? And so now we're starting to see more people do that with the virtual tours and say, have you watched the virtual tour? And if not, draw attention to it before they schedule an appointment. Because if they're not satisfied with a virtual tour, they're not going to be satisfied with an in-person tour once they get to the property.
Right. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, very clever. So what are some other ways that that people are leveraging these or making sure that it's all kind of tied together? Because you're kind of at the forefront of seeing how people are leveraging this stuff. And I think that's a clever hack to require the virtual tour in some way or fashion. Are there any other things like that you're noticing people are doing to facilitate this?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really interesting and really smart is particularly is the cost of these cameras is dropping, and there are more options for property managers than there's ever been before. As you're doing your move outs, and some of the homes, obviously they're going to need some maintenance as you turn them over, and maybe a new coat of paint, new carpet, whatever. But as you do your next move-in inspection, if you have a 360 camera, if you're using the Zillow 3D Home app, if you're using your own iPhone in order to record, your pictures and whatnot, use that next move-in inspection as an opportunity to not only record what the status of the home is before the new tenant moves in, but then use that as an opportunity for your marketing material too. And a lot of these tools like Matterport, for example, if you use one of their cameras, it'll take all the pictures, panoramic pictures for you. And then you can even take out specific 2D images and use those for your marketing materials too. So you basically, if you have the right equipment and your budget allows for it, put the camera on the tripod, put it inside each room. It'll take scans of the entire room. It'll create a 3D floor plan. It'll create a dollhouse view of the home, and it will create all the individual images that you would need for your listings and for your inspection. So taking that as an opportunity to combine the maintenance and move-in element with the marketing element so that you can have that 3D tour for that home in the future.
Right. So then when your tenant puts in notice, you can start marketing the property right away.
Yep.
You can put it out there. You can put out the tour, like everything else before, and you may be able to get the place rented before it's even vacant.
Absolutely. And that's another big benefit that, some of these, some property managers are realizing with high quality virtual tours is that they can get the properties rented sight unseen. Where if the virtual tour is good enough, whether the person lives in town or not, if the property is occupied and they're still, they want to put it out there to market it, they can get there's a higher likelihood that they'll have the home rented sight unseen with a high quality virtual tour. So that's, I think that's the goal, right? I mean, with Tenant Turner, we're trying to manage the leads and schedule the appointments and get people into the home. But ultimately what we're trying to do is to streamline the leasing process. So if we can help minimize the number of showings, help minimize the amount of back and forth that goes on, or with these virtual tours, maybe even prevent somebody from going to a property altogether, that's a win-win.
So the property managers that are not doing this stuff, if they're tracking their metrics and they're tracking their average time to get things rented out, their time on market, some of these variables, and then they start using maybe Tenant Turner, they start using maybe self-access, maybe they start using virtual 360 cameras and tours and all this. they probably will see a dramatic difference. And to be able to say in a sales presentation to a prospective owner, hey, this is where we were before, like all the companies out there, and here's where we're at now and what we've noticed. I mean, it's such a huge differentiator and selling point. Yeah. I mean, because even a month of vacancy, even a couple of weeks of vacancy can be pretty expensive. In some markets, that could be thousands of dollars, depending on the property.
Yep.
So
this is just another kind of tool in the tool belt. And I think a big thing is, you know, some of the concepts around virtual tours, and, you know, I think some of it with Matterport too, just because the cost has been so high, like you can get into doing virtual tours relatively easier now because of the Zillow's, you know, 3D home app. You can do it now just with the quality of phones, being able to take your own panoramic pictures. I know a lot of people out there, they're using tools like Z Inspector already for their home inspections, but they also offer a virtual tour tool. So there's a lot more out there now than there's ever been before. And I think the property managers who are willing to take that leap into putting a little bit of extra effort into it and putting a little bit of extra time in it, they're going to be the ones who receive the biggest returns by reducing their vacancy, reducing their rent loss to vacancy, but then also, like you said, being able to inject those core metrics back into their value prop to their customers.
All right. So between you and me, because it's just you and me right now, right here.
Just us, just hanging out.
Yeah, right. Just us. So if you're hanging out with one of your buddies that runs a property management company, and they're like, hey, what should I use? Like, what camera should I get? I've got your system, Tenant Turner. Yeah. What would your go-to recommendation be right now?
Yeah, and I think so. The Zillow thing is really intriguing because it's free, but for all of us in the industry, you know, Zillow, they're kind of a
it makes everyone scared. Everyone's a little afraid of Zillow.
Exactly.
We're all watching Zillow, but
and
we're all a little bit afraid. Right. Yes.
So, you know, with Zillow, that means they own and control your data because you're recording it in their app, you're uploading it to their servers. And I know a lot of people in this industry, they're thinking in the back of their mind, they're like, well, it's just a matter of time before I've uploaded this to their servers for free. And then they're going to take me out of the process completely because now they need a virtual tour, you know? So I would say the Zillow one is appealing because of the cost. It costs nothing to do it. But I do think for property managers who are a bit more sophisticated and a bit more in the know in the industry and maybe have some fears of Zillow and for good reason, you know, I think like there's a couple $100 camera. It's a Ricoh camera, which is a reputable brand. You know, it works with Z Inspector. It works with Matterport. You could use it with either one of those products and probably a couple of others. And, you know, that's a great place to be able to create these beautiful 360 panoramic, you know, vantage points of the rental property. For some, and this is, you know, what we kind of saw in the data that we looked at, you know, a third of our customers are doing virtual tours, but only 11% of our listings have virtual tours. So what we're seeing is the higher end properties, or maybe some of your smaller multifamily that you can reuse a layout or reuse a virtual tour across multiple units. That's where you're also going to get the most bang for your buck. So, you know, I think as time goes on, and maybe we're not quite there yet, where this is going to be a ubiquitous part of everybody's process. You know, you can use it as an upsell to an owner. You can use it, you know, as something particularly for those higher end listings. And, you know, you tell somebody, say, hey, you have a top tier property, you have a beautiful space, and I want to be the property manager for you. And this is how I'm going to do it. You know, that's part of a way you can help win that management agreement. So I don't think it has to be something that's used all the time by every single, you know, every listing
property
is out there. Exactly. So I think that's a good way to kind of overcome it. And I think if you don't have a camera and you want to test the waters, the Ricoh cameras, and there are a couple of them out there, but they're more like $400 versus the Matterport's $4,000. So it's a good way to test it out and see if it's a good fit for your organization. And to your point earlier, is it going to positively impact your key metrics? Are you going to see a reduction in your days vacant? Are you going to see a reduction in your time on market? Are you going to see an increase in either maybe an additional fee or more management contracts because you offer this and nobody else in your market does.
Well, I mean, say you've got a $20 an hour employee that's kind of helping do some of this stuff, whatever. I mean, if it's a $400 camera and, if it saves you 20 hours ever, that at $20 an hour, it's, you're broken even on the camera. Right.
Yep.
And I would imagine that's, what is that? 20 showings maybe, or trips out to a place or whatever. So I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, you could probably justify the $4,000 camera if you needed to, guys or gals listening. But 400 is pretty easy to start with.
Yeah, exactly. And we have seen, with some of the bigger groups, particularly property managers who are tied into larger real estate offices that primarily focus on sales. They tend to have access to the Matterport cameras because those Matterport cameras have taken off more on the for sale side. So that's another thing, whether it's within the NARPM world or within your just local real estate group, you may have a friend that has one. Whether or not they let you borrow their $4,000 camera,
just rent it.
Rent it. That's an option. And speaking of, there are services too, depending upon what you think your choke point is. But like, there's tools out there or services out there. Planomatic is one. Zillow also offers their own network of professional photographers that have access to the 3D tour technology. Planomatic is in partnership with Matterport. HomeJab is another new one that has 50 offices nationwide. And so if your issue is, getting somebody to go to the property, take the pictures and do the editing, Planomatic, HomeJab, those tools are in place and those services
you can offload it.
Exactly. Like think about what's the most appropriate part of the process to potentially outsource. I know like Virtually Incredible, they do a good job in creating virtual tours that can then be promoted through your various listings and websites and whatnot. So if you have an editing, if that's where your constraint is, or don't feel like you have the time or talent to do it, that there's another place where you can kind of offload and outsource that component to it. So I think it's really like, you should be doing it. And if you do it, you will differentiate yourself and make more money and reduce your days vacant. So it makes sense to do it. But if you have hesitancies around buying a camera, then borrow one or use one of these services or go the Zillow route. If you can overcome that hurdle and your concern is really around editing and formatting and getting it to the appropriate level, you can use another one of those services like Virtually Incredible, who can piece it all together for you. But any stage of the game where you think you have a hesitancy or you're resistant to taking it on, there are opportunities to buy equipment or utilize an existing service who's an expert in it.
Perfect. All right. So I think you've sold people on the idea of virtual tour technologies.
That's
right. All right. So, and anything else that they should know about this that you're seeing from your kind of 30-foot view with all the different property management companies that you're helping on with the leasing side?
Yeah, I would say, one thing to add is, some people might be listening to this, say, we don't really need to do that, or, the technology is not there yet. At least be thinking about this, whether you look at strategic components every quarter or every year or whatever, because one of the big statistics that came out of some of the research done by apartments.com and Zillow is about 45% of millennial renters are really leaning into virtual tours before they make a decision. So if you don't think the stats are compelling, if you don't want to try it, just know that the largest group of renters that continues to expand, within the markets that we serve, they are looking for this type of technology. So again, it's something that you can use to help sell to your owners. But as you look at, quality tenants, this is something that those folks are going to be looking for. And they'll look past your listings eventually if this is not going to be there. So be ready.
I would wager to say there might be a correlation between the most tech savvy of renters and the safest ones to be placing into properties. It might help you attract the better tenants. Maybe.
Yep. I agree.
So there may psychologically it seems sound to me, but Who knows? All right. So, well, James, it's really cool to have you on here again. What I don't know when the next conference is, but we'll have to go dancing again.
That's right. Yeah.
with all our homies.
That's right. That's right. Just to be clear,
some of
it's
the other
not just
vendors to go
Jason and I
dancing.
dancing,
No, we're not dancing together.
Exactly.
No.
Have a good time,
Yeah. You're married, but I'm single again. So
That's right.
I can pick
I'll
up.
be your,
I
I
can
can be
pick
your
up.
wingman.
You'll be my wingman. I
Yeah.
could use a wingman.
I got you
That'd be
covered,
great.
man. I got you covered.
All right. Well, hey, it's really good to see you again. Not Calvin, James.
That's right.
Calvin's, that name's like stuck in my head. James, it's really good to see you again.
Yeah, man.
And I love what you guys are doing at Tenant Turner. I appreciate you coming on the show. And how can people get in touch with Tenant Turner?
You guys can, if you guys ever need any help with your showing software, electronic lock boxes or locks, or ever just a resource to chat with. As you can tell, we're really into the data, we're really into the industry, and we want to be of service to folks. So you can reach me at james@tenantturner.com. Definitely come to our website. We've got a live chat feature. So anytime you want to speak with somebody, we have folks standing by, all US based, who would love to hear from you. Come on through.
So I saw your Instagram, so I'm going to let you get another quick plug here.
Okay.
So you have some new lock boxes that you guys are doing now?
That's right. Yeah. So one of the big and exciting things that we've been rolling out, we've been doing it in a slow launch. And actually, Calvin, he owns his own property management company, Key Renter Richmond. He was one of our guinea pig customers. And we put these new lock boxes on his property. So there's Century Lock boxes. Century Lock's a wholly owned subsidiary of the National Association of Realtors. It is an extremely high quality lockbox with a 6-year warranty. So for anybody who has had a desire to experiment with self-access, but maybe was hesitant because of the lock boxes, what we have now is top tier and will last you a good long time and help prevent you from having to go to those properties and show them yourself.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, James, thanks again for coming on, and absolutely. I will let you go.
Cool. Thank you, Jason. It was a pleasure.
All right. So great to see him again and have him on the show. Check out Tenant Turner at tenantturner.com. And if you are property in the business, feel free to reach out. Test your website at DoorGrow.com/quiz. DoorGrow.com/quiz. Test your website out, see if it's effective, and if not, you maybe will want to talk with us. And that might help you realize there's that leak, but you probably have several other leaks that we could help you with in your sales pipeline. And our goal is to shore up trust, shore up those leaks, because trust is the speed in which you're able to get clients on, close deals, and grow your company. And that's what we specialize in, is helping maximize trust and organic growth and warm lead generation at DoorGrow. And so with that, I will let everybody have an awesome day. Let everybody go. And until next time, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.